Okay, welcome to this second session of a Q&A live stream. I'm going to be working on this queen sculpture, just sanding the details. If there are questions, you can ask any questions that you'd like, or if you have topics you'd like to discuss or anything like that, I'd be happy to do it. Otherwise, I'll just be sculpting, just be working on the details. This is kind of what I think is the more boring part of the sculpture, where I'm just sanding, getting rid of scratch marks, but it's important to make it a good looking sculpture. So this is limestone. I'm going to be working with 220 grit sandpaper and go into the kind of this matte finish. So if you guys have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just be working. I've just got some water. I'll just be wet sanding. The water just helps to create a slurry that gets rid of the scratch marks a little bit better. And if there's areas where I see that there's a lot of scratches, I'll come mark it up with this. This is a lumber crayon. Pretty much all around here needs to be. Somebody's asking, what stone would you recommend to use for stone sculpture? Well, I'd say, well, what I like to do is try to find quarries nearby that might have either limestone or, if you can find it, marble. I really like limestone and marble because they're a little bit harder, but not too hard. They're not like granite. So those are the stones that I really like. If you're new to sculpting, maybe alabaster or something softer, soapstone or alabaster, but those are so soft you can basically scratch them with your fingernail, and I prefer sculptures that you can't scratch with your fingernail, so I prefer just a little bit harder. I'd say limestone, uh, limestone, marble. There's also like calcite, like honeycomb calcite is a interesting stone that's kind of got a similar hardness to marble. And that's a pretty stone. That's more translucent. But I would just see if there's stones that are not too far from where you are, because transporting stone can get expensive pretty fast because it's heavy. So I'd say if you can find a stone supplier that deals with marble, maybe sometimes people that do like gravestones, sometimes they'll have marble that they don't use, or they ended up not using it for a gravestone, so it's like a scrap piece of stone. And I was able to get some stone that way. But my favorites are marble and limestone right now. Though if you can carve it, granite is great for outdoors because it really lasts. So if you don't mind the hardness of the stone. And then you don't want to sculpt a stone that has, you want to be careful because some stone has asbestos or, radioactive elements or other things that are not good to breathe. So you do have to be a little bit careful. But usually a limestone or marble are my favorite. Somebody says, hey, well, hello. Welcome to this sanding session. It's very exciting. That's why I had to do a live stream. I was like, I can't sand this. I can't do this monotonous sanding without showing people how exciting it is to finish a stone sculpture. Very, very entertaining material right here. The sound of it actually is kind of nice. It's got like a ringing to it, like a chime to it, just a little bit. But it's not very exciting. Let's say somebody's saying, will you put a sealant on this sculpture? If so, what can I get it at my local Lowe's? Yes, I believe they have it. I think if you just look up stone sealant, there's a seal. It's called Seal and Enhance. Seal and Enhance. I forget the brand, but it's for like a breathable stone sealant, and it's kind of expensive. It's like a little blue bottle, and it's like $50, but that's what I use for my sculptures. So the Seal and Enhance helps when you put it on like limestone to bring the colors out, so that's why I like that one for colored stone. And then I just use the normal sealant for white stone, for marble and those things. Because the Seal and Enhance will yellow the stone a little bit. So if you have a colored stone or a dark stone, that's okay, but you don't really want white stone to yellow. Is clay consisting of paraffin wax, calcium, and mineral oils comparable to your preferred plasticine clays? Do you have experience with paraffin clays? I'd have to know like the specific brand that you're using, or if it's just a homemade clay. I don't know. I'd have to test it, like feel it and test it. But paraffin wax usually isn't as it's usually not as well. In my experience, I find a harder time making a good consistency of clay with paraffin wax than like beeswax or other types of waxes. But I don't know, I would have to try the specific type of clay, or if it's a homemade recipe, I'd have to try the recipe to see. Let's see, somebody's asking, what is the normal sealant called? Well, let me look up the specific one, since a couple people are interested. And so let's see, the one I use is let's see, it's a breathable. So this one says it's at Lowe's. Let me see if I can let me see if I can share the screen. It's not showing. Let's see. So this one's just called Miracle Sealants 511 Impregnator Clear Natural Stone Sealant and Finish. I'm having a hard time screen sharing with the OBS. Oh wait, there we go. So it is. So this one is the one that I usually use. You can see that. So it's like this little blue bottle. And then there's one that's Seal and Enhance, and this one's Clear Natural Stone Sealer So this one I think would work better for white stone. So I guess it's Miracle Sealants is the brand, 511. And I usually don't want the high gloss. I just go for like a breathable sealant so that the water can go in and out. Otherwise it like gets the water can get stuck in the stone and then it doesn't do very well. So thank you, because I'll try to get some at a local marble here in Northwest Oklahoma, and it's white. Yeah, if you can get something local, yeah, marble is great if you can find a local marble, and a lot of the times you can get a really good deal at local quarries and things like that. So I would definitely recommend that if that's an option. The clay I have in mind doesn't have a name. It's visible on the shop. It only shows the clay, but I actually wrote Nara Global, and they sent me their ingredient list. Oh, cool. The Nara clay. Yeah, I liked that one. I liked the one that I tried. It's hard. I haven't found success with homemade clay recipes. So if you find a homemade clay that works well, and I was talking in the previous live stream about doing a sculpture group where I send out like clay every month, clay and a sculpture stand and an armature and a new pose. We do a new pose every month, and so it's like a subscription type deal where you subscribe and then you get something in the mail and sculpt along. So there's a bunch of people sculpting the same thing at the same time. That's something that I'm interested in, and I would probably use one of the cheap clays like the non-dry modeling clays from Dollar Tree or other ones, and then I would just melt them down and ship it out to you guys. But it is kind of nice, and then you can save the project afterwards. Kind of nice not having to make a new sculpture stand. And so I was just thinking of that as a way to help students do more sculpting. And that could be a fun thing that I'm working on the details on. Somebody's saying they said that their clay consisted of calcium carbonate powder, paraffin wax, and hydrocarbon waxes, white mineral oil, and pigment. So really it was a stupid question if you had experience with it. Oh, I have tried the Nara clay, and it worked fine. So it's a non-dry, that's a non-dry modeling clay, and it worked good. In fact, there's a recent video where I try it out. I think it's called Battle of the Budget Clays or something. And the one at Hobby Lobby, the Nara clay at Hobby Lobby, that's one of the cheapest clays I've been able to find. So I think if you can find a cheap clay, I like getting cheap clays because then I can just keep the sculpture in the original clay, which I like to do. Even if I mold and cast it, I still like keeping the original. Though it can take up a lot of space, so maybe that's not practical for everybody. But yeah, I'd like to start, maybe I'd take those cheap clays, melt them into blocks that are like 5-pound blocks, and then sell those. Or do like the monthly subscription thing, so that each month you get a new piece of clay, a new wire armature, and then we do some live streams or something to sculpt a new pose together every month or every other month. You know, maybe every other month is more realistic with everything that I have going on. Just as a way to get students to sculpt more, because that's one of the hard things about doing online, which I teach online, and so getting students to get motivated and actually do the sculpting is a battle. But I think if you had, if you had something coming in the mail, some new clay or a new block of clay and a new sculpture armature and a new pose every month, then that might make things easier for some students. Somebody's saying, yeah, I saw that video. We also had a little talk, but suddenly stopped answering. It was a video that prompted me to seek the cheapest alternative. Oh yeah, the last video I had to go to breakfast. So if you're talking about the previous live stream, I had to cut it short because my kid came in and let me know breakfast was ready. But maybe I should have. I thought I said goodbye and everything, but sometimes the live stream lags a little bit, so maybe that's what happened. Oh, or oh, it was on the video. Oh yeah, so YouTube doesn't notify me. Like if I respond to somebody and then they respond again, YouTube doesn't notify me when they respond. So it only notifies me like when they comment at first. But then unless they do a new comment, it just doesn't notify me. So you have to go I have to go into like a new section on, it's like you have to do something. You have to go like new replies or something. But maybe there's a way to turn on the notifications. But right now, I don't know why it is that way. But when somebody responds to something that I responded to, like in a conversation on a thing, it doesn't notify me. So I just don't see it. But if you have something that requires like more back and forth, then usually my Instagram is a better way of getting in contact. Andrew Joseph Keith 15 is my Instagram, and that's a little bit easier, and that way I can keep track of conversations a little bit better. Yeah, I don't like how YouTube, I wish it would notify me when people respond to something that I responded to, but it just doesn't right now, so I don't know how that works. Somebody says, yeah, same here. I just thought it was a different for content creators. Yeah, I wish I could change if it was like a setting that I knew where it was, I'd change it. I don't know where. There's probably a way to do it. You'd think there would be, but I'm not super tech savvy, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people that have responded, like I responded back and asked something, and then they responded, and I just don't see it because YouTube doesn't show me that as a new notification. So he says, hi, I'm new to everything clay and everything in art. Really, I found your page and have found it helpful. Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you found the page, and I'm glad you found it helpful, and I hope that you create some beautiful artwork. I think it's great. I think we need more people creating beautiful art, so I hope that you do. And if there's anything I can do to help on that journey, I hope you'll let me know, because it is great thing. Let's see, somebody saying the unnamed brand I found consists of paraffin wax, calcium, and mineral oils, which I think sound a lot like the Nara Global, but told me theirs consisted of, should I just buy a bunch of it and try it out? I would buy, smaller amounts unless you get a special discount for buying a lot. Like for the Nara clay at Hobby Lobby, if you buy 50 pounds, the shipping was free, so I bought 50 pounds of it, and I liked it, so I thought it was worth it. But if it's your first time testing the clay and you just don't know, then I would say it's better to get a smaller amount, and rather than buy a lot and then end up not using it. Like I purchased over $100 worth of monster clay, but I think I don't know if I'll end up using that, because it's just well, I'll probably end up using it eventually. But if I could go back, I would have bought a smaller amount and tested it and then bought more after. Do you offer any type of small group or one-on-one classes? Well, I do have my courses. So there's the sculpting courses at Proco.com. Those are just online and they're kind of follow at your own speed. So if you haven't checked those out and you're interested in sculpting, I hope you'll check those out. And today's the last day of the summer sale, which is use discount code summer sale for 20% off, and that ends today. So today's a good day to get it. If you already have those courses, I am trying to start a sculpture group where maybe every month we have a new pose, and maybe it's like $10 to participate, and there's like a new pose every month, and then people that want to have something a little bit more, then they can get a new like sculpture stand and clay every month. And that's something that I've thought about and am hoping to get going. And with that, there might be more chances for like live streams, or having, like, I don't know if there's a way to do a Zoom call with like all the students so that we could all like sculpt actually at the same time and ask questions and things like that. I just like to do more. But those things that require more time and energy. So there just has to be a way to monetize it in a way that makes sense for whatever it is I'm doing. So that is something I'm looking to do. Right now, my Patreon at $15 a month. Like if you just want feedback on a specific sculpture, you can join my Patreon and like email me images, and then I give feedback for specific sculptures to improve them and stuff like that. So that might be something in the meantime that you might be interested in. Somebody's saying, I bought a block of monster clay and I liked to sculpt with it, but it's a hassle because the hard version hardens quickly. Yeah, monster clay is popular. A lot of people like it. I'm just used to a different type of clay, so I think I'll kind of stick to what I'm used to. Somebody says, with me being new, what Proco class would you recommend? I would recommend starting with the figure sculpting fundamentals course. So proco.com/sculpture. Or you can also, the link in the description of this live stream has all my links, and you can just go to the figure sculpting course. And I'd start with that one because that one's kind of a basic overview of sculpting in general and just basic sculpting principles. And you can do it at your own speed. You just do the assignments as you or you just watch the videos, do the assignments, and then upload them over at proco.com. And then I try to, when people comment, I try to give feedback and encouragement to students to keep going, and that's what I would start with. I think it's a good beginner course. How long has it taken for you to reach this point with this chest piece? And did you use, let's see, a carver? And did you use to carve any power tools or just a hammer and chisel? So this one is probably maybe coming close to like 20 hours of work. I don't know what it's at exactly. I've recorded most of the process, so I'd have to look back at the footage. I like to do a video about it once it's finished. But yeah, the beginning was all power tools. So the beginning was cutting and grinding and some other power tools, some burrs, metal burrs for the face area and things like that. A lot of power tools at the beginning, but then as it gets to the later stages, like this stage, then moving to hand chisels and files, like metal files that you can find at like Harbor Freight. Those work really good. And then move on to sanding. Some of the sanding I was able to do with power tools in like big flat areas. You can kind of do with power tools, but a lot of it in these inside areas you just have to do by hand if you want to do it without messing things up too much. And so that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, it's kind of a back and forth between hand tools and power tools with this style. Let's see, somebody's saying, is figure sculpting fundamentals course still being expanded upon, or is it completed at this point? It's finished, so all of the lessons are up. It's a finished course, and so it's just basically follow it at your own speed. Just as you finish lessons, go to the next ones, and but yeah, all of the lessons are up, and it's there might be times when I do like go over student work or something, but those will probably just be free videos up on the Proco 3D YouTube channel. When I'd like to do a video at some point going over student work and just showing some of the great work that students have done, and maybe also doing some critiques, which are sometimes helpful for other students. Let's see, there's 32 pieces, 16 for each side in chess. Yes, yeah, 32. 8 pawns, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, 2 knights, a king and a queen on each side. So yeah, I was talking on the previous live stream, I was talking about that to do like a whole chess set this size in stone, it would probably be like $100,000 project to, you know, this is like 18 inches or something, but if somebody wanted, they're like, I want 32 sculptures that are just like that, so that I can like have a fine art sculpture chess set. Yeah, it would be 32 individual sculptures in light stone and dark stone, half in light, half in dark. But that would be a fun thing, but not a lot of people have that kind of money to throw around at a chess set. Dremel has some fine grit buffing wheels that work well, I found at Lowe's for $6 for 2. Oh, I'll have to check that out. I do think that there are some additional tools that I could implement into my workflow. I just haven't been doing stone sculpting enough to justify purchasing a lot of tools, but now that I'm getting ready for a stone show, or a sculpture show, which is coming up in I think it's in August, and so I need to start producing more sculpture work. And tools are great. let's see. How many pieces have you finished? Oh, as far as stone carving, well, yeah, this one was just kind of a for fun. This one's for the show. Right now, I probably have 12 pieces, 12 stone sculptures that are pretty much ready to go. A couple of them I want to replace the bases on, and I still need to drill this one and put a base on it. But I probably have 10 to 12 right now, and I'd like to have 15 or so. So I need to do another 3 in the next month or so. Those ones will probably be less complicated of a design. This one's a pretty, the more complex designs take a little bit longer to finish, so I'll probably do some simple like gesture studies, which are fun. And so I probably need to do like 3 more stone sculptures in the next month or so. Somebody's saying, I just got the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals class. Very excited to learn. Well, hey, thank you. That is great. I'm glad you got that while it was on sale. So that is a great thing. And I'm excited to see your work. The hard thing is just doing it. So I'd say, like, just do the assignments. If you can set aside a little bit of time every day to work. That's the hardest part, is just doing the assignments. So I look forward to seeing your work over in the course. Let me make sure that this is in focus. Somebody's saying, would that be break even or a little for you to be paid as well? I'm not sure what that means. There might be would that be great? Or I don't know. That sentence is not making sense in my brain. But this, this sculpture is not, it's not like a commission or anything. It's just, I'm just saying, if somebody saw this sculpture, a multimillionaire, and then was like, you know what, I'd like an entire chess set of these, that would be a big project, because each one is quite time consuming. So I'm just trying to get rid of all of these scratches inside the sculpture under the chin. Somebody's saying, when do you do chess? When you do the chess. How many pieces have I finished when I do, or wait, what? Oh. So as far as the chess set, so somebody's asking about the chess set, like if I'll be paid if I sell the chess set, or I don't know if you're referring to the sculpture, But yeah, I mean, I have to be paid or else it's not worth it. So whatever the price ends up being, I've just tried to calculate my time, the time that I spent, and then cost of materials and things. Um, and sometimes things end up being a little bit more expensive. Like for the chess set, I wanted it to be like around $250 for the custom AJK chess set, but it was so much more work and so much more cost in materials that it's like for me to make that custom chess set, it's like 32 custom cast sculptures, so it has to be closer to like $1,000 than what I was originally hoping. So I just have to calculate, how much time and energy each project takes, and then base the price off of that. The labor costs and all of that. Oh, he meant the price you mentioned, $100,000 had profit included, or if it was break even price. Well, there would be profit. It'd be me just having to pay for the time that it takes to do it. So most of it would be, a good portion would be in stone. The cost is stone, but stone, I mean, it's not, unless you're buying a really expensive stone. The major cost is the time cost that it takes to do the sculptures. But yeah, for to do 32 sculptures, that would be like a year. That would be like a year of my life just doing that project. If I could do one a week, and I'm not sure I could do one a week, but let's say 1 to 2 a week, or 1 to 2 or 3, maybe like 3 a month or something. So it would be like a year of working. So that's just what I would price if somebody was like, hey, I want this chess set, that's just for a year of my creative energy. That's just what I'd have to price it at, something like that. But like I was saying, there's not a lot of people that interested in chess that have that kind of cash to throw around. Well, you have to be interested in chess and interested in art to be a investor in sculpture. Because if you're not interested in art, why would you spend that much? So it's kind of a even smaller niche. But it would be cool having a life-size chess set. Or not a life-size, but this is making 30 of these size chess pieces. Somebody's saying, have you ever thought about a course on doing action figures, a collaboration effort, perhaps? There's plenty of action figure mod videos on YouTube. I would like to see figures made from scratch. That could be a cool thing to try to do. Maybe try to make my own action figure. But I mean, I'm more interested in like the general sculpting principles. So like how to sculpt and teaching that. And then once people know how to sculpt, they can make whatever they want. So they can do action figures, they can do stone, they can do clay, they can do like fine art, or they can follow other directions with their sculpting. Go into, VFX design or whatever they want. But sculpting principles can be applied to a lot of different things. Any type of 3D. But maybe making my own action figure would be a fun project. I don't know how they get them to where you can charge like so little for a toy, because somebody has to sculpt the toy at the beginning, but with the molds and the toy making process, they're able to get the price down so that you only have to pay $20 for a action figure or whatever it is. And that, to me, that's pretty incredible, because it's just a little sculpture cast in plastic. So I think if it's a well done one, that's a pretty good deal. But for me to try to do something similar, you know, just the materials for one cast would be more than $20. So I don't know how they do it. So I'm feeling the sculpture to try to feel areas where it's still a little bit rough. Sometimes when it's wet, it's hard to see the scratches and areas that still need to be worked. You can sometimes feel them better than you can see them, or you just dry it off so that you can, once it's like kind of between the wet and dry stage, it's easier to see the scratches. But I'm just kind of feeling and trying to remove some of the bumps that I don't like with sanding. I've got that popsicle stick as a backing that I'm using to make sure I'm keeping those corners that I've established. Somebody says, "Oh, I found your channel on Proco last night." If that was you. My channel on Proco last night? Oh yeah, the Proco 3D channel. Yeah, that one's like where I put most of the sculpting content related to the Proco courses. I didn't catch the first parts of this in the last video. What kind of stone are you working with? This is limestone, so this is actually a stone that was in my yard. When we moved to our first house in Iowa. So I don't know what type of limestone or where it came from, but I'd like to get more if I find more. But it was just used as it's just a landscaping limestone is what it was used for. And it carves pretty nice. The design is kind of busy. You know, there's kind of a lot going on. So if you like a more clean stone, then it's not great. But I don't mind a busy design in my more abstracted sculptures. I think it's kind of fun when the stone has some more interesting things going on. But this design would also be really cool in like just a pure white marble or a black. I could see this design being really cool. This is one of the more complex abstract sculptures that I've been doing. A lot of them are more simple because those simple ones come together a little bit faster. And I'm able to do more with tools, power tools, which helps when you're trying to produce more sculptures. Let's see, my last carving took about 28 hours to complete. The stone I found in my cow field. I've entered 2 art shows and sold 3. I'm entering my 3rd show this month, and I'm new. Let's see, I'm new at all this and self-taught. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's great that you've been able to sell some pieces and use the stone that you found locally. I'd say if just keep going, keep building on that, and then as you get experience, you just get better. get experience selling and get experience seeing what people like, and you get better at sculpting, and that's great. Yeah, I really like stone, so I think it's hard to compete with a good stone sculpture as far as a finish for any work of art. I think stone is one of the best mediums to use in art. Just has a weight to it and a presence and kind of a history behind it. You know, there's the natural history of the stone, of however it was formed, and then on top of that, there's the, you know, history of the carving, and it's just so much that goes into a stone sculpture that I think bronze and other mediums, they just don't have that that kind of weight and story behind it. $28 for a sculpture is not that's not terrible. That's decent, and then if you can pay yourself a decent amount for the labor, or a reasonable amount for the labor and cost of stone and everything. But with art, it's complicated because it's not just labor, it's also like, what is somebody willing to pay? And that's kind of a hard thing to figure out. Somebody says it'll last forever. Yeah, it depends on the stone. So some limestones that I've sculpted don't do well outside. They're like indoor sculptures, because limestone can be more susceptible to wearing with rain and other things. If you're using a good marble, that'll last a lot longer, and then granite will basically last as long as a bronze. That's why you see a lot of tombstones in granite, and they just last. There's very little weathering with those. So if you're just going for something that'll last for a long time, then granite is a great stone to use. Granite or basalt, those just do very well outside. What kind of stone do you prefer to work with? Any issues working with softer stone? Yeah, I don't like softer stone, so alabasters, soapstone, those types. I don't like those because they're too soft. Like, if you can scratch it with your fingernail, which you can with alabaster and soapstone, you can just scratch it. That's how soft they are with your fingernail. To me, that's too soft. So I like a sculpture that, you know, you can't just go and scratch a mark in it. So limestone is like the softest. This is a pretty soft limestone. That's about as soft as I like to go. And then between limestone and marble and just a little bit harder is pretty much where I like to be. I haven't done a lot with granite because most of the tools that I have are for marble hardness. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Let's see. Or the types of stone that I like. But I would, if I could figure out granite, I think that would be cool. Again, because of how durable it is outside. me see if I can get you guys a little bit closer to see more of what's going on. It's kind of hard to see from some angles. Somebody's asking, have you ever carved shale stone or any other mud rock? No, I haven't done shale. I know shale is popular for just because of the way it breaks in like sheets. It's popular for relief sculptures. So you like break off a sheet and then you have a flat surface to do a relief sculpture on. So if I was going to do a relief sculpture, then I might try shale. But I just haven't up to this point. But I'm not against it, you know, if there was a reason to do it, or if I had some and I had a design that would go well with those types of materials, then I would try it. But I just haven't tried it yet. Let's see, let me see if I can show you guys a little bit more. It's hard to get an angle where I can see well and you guys can see well. That's something I struggle with when working. Somebody says, any experience with some of the harder sandstone? That's what I'm currently working or carving under a constant stream of water and Dremel. Any advice? So I haven't done sandstone, and part of the reason is because of how hard it is on your tools, and then it's also not good to breathe. So yeah, you do have to work with water. Sounds like you're doing that right, just to keep the dust down. So I prefer to do stones like limestone and marble. Those are not hazardous if you're breathing in a lot of that dust, but any silica based stone can be. So granite and sandstone, those types of things, they can be a lot harder for your body to deal with. So any advice? Well, I guess it would just be general, sculpting advice is what I would say. Have a good design, have a good maquette, and as you're sculpting stone, it's the opposite of additive sculpture. So it's subtractive sculpture. You're removing material to find the design. So that means that you want to slow down and sculpt everything nice and fat. You want to have everything be fat instead of sculpting everything thin, and then just slowly push things in and push in and push in, and then start with the outermost areas, then slowly work your way into the inside areas. Because you don't know, for example, this inside corner of the eye, when I was starting, I didn't know exactly where the eyes would be. And so by pushing slowly, finding the face first, finding maybe the tip of the nose, and then slowly pushing in, I'm able to find those features. That's just kind of working with stone. You just have to switch that from how you would work with clay, which is, for me, it's the opposite. With clay, you want everything to be very thin, slowly add clay. With stone, you want everything nice and thick, and slowly remove stone, and carefully, because with stone it's a lot harder to add anything back, if not impossible. So that's the advice I would give, just general stone sculpting advice. Yeah, I'd like to, eventually I'll probably do a little mini course on my method for stone sculpting for the types of sculptures that I do. It's not the type of sculpture everybody wants to do, and I need to study realistic stone sculpting before I could confidently teach about that. But this abstract stuff is really fun, so I could definitely talk through my process of doing these more abstracted, fun designs. Somebody saying, let's see. My last carving was going to be an eagle in flight, but I broke the wing, and now it's going to be a buffalo. Got to be able to adapt. Yep, that happens. Eagle to a buffalo is a pretty dramatic transformation. But yeah, I've had to redo designs because the stone broke in half. It's always disappointing. Got a call. 1 sec. Let me just mute. Let's see, is sound back? Let me make sure sound's back. Yeah. It's just my wife seeing if we need more protein, and we do. We always need more protein. Okay. Let's see, I'm seeing some areas down here that need some more work. Can you correct mistakes in stone, and how bad does a mistake have to be to make it unsalvageable? Yeah, you can almost always correct a mistake by making the stone sculpture smaller. Well, that's not always true. If you're doing something abstracted similar to this, the more realistic you're going, the less room for error you have. But if you're doing something abstract, a lot of the time you can change the design if you remove too much material in certain areas, and it's not a big deal. But when you're doing a realistic sculpture, especially a realistic sculpture where the hand is supposed to be in one place or a certain size, or the arms are outstretched or whatever it is, the more realistic you're going, the less room for error you have. So that's why you want to be extra careful and just go extra slow with stone sculptures that are more realistic. That's why they're harder. They're more impressive, but they are there's less room for error. I think the David sculpture was, if I'm not mistaken, it was restarted a couple times. I think 2 or 3 times they restarted that sculpture. So I almost always, if I spend a long enough time, I can almost always get a sculpture to a place where I'm okay with it, even if I did some pretty big mistakes, you know, removed too much material from certain areas or something like that. But it just makes the sculpture smaller generally. Then a sculpture where the design is symmetrical, like this one, that also adds some complexity. You gotta be a little bit more careful, because if you move away from that symmetry, then you have to figure out a way to fix it. And this one, you know, it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical, but it'll be pretty, trying to get it pretty close. So he says, have to go, have to get another couple hours of carving while the weather's nice. I'll watch the rest later. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope your sculpture goes well. Yeah, sculpting while the weather's good is important, especially if you have an outdoor studio where you're working. It is great. Let's see. Somebody says, any recommendations on books on clay sculpting? There seems to be a few with some kind of instruction. Most seem to focus on polymer clay. How much overlap does the different mediums have? My favorite book on sculpting is Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure by Edward Lantieri. But that's one of the, that's one of the classics. That's one of my main books. But then, art, if you understand the figure, you can represent it in all sorts of different ways in different mediums. So just books on understanding the human form better. I really like George Bridgman. His way of drawing that helps people understand the figure. But as far as just like a specifically sculpting book, yeah, Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure by Edward Lantieri is one of my favorites. There's probably other great ones, but that one is kind of a classic, and a lot of sculptors, a lot of other books are based off of the same principles. Well, I guess the principles are pretty similar, but regardless of what type of sculpture you're doing. Polymer clay is great. I'd say if you can work in polymer clay, it's a little bit more expensive, but then you can just bake your sculpture and have it finished in and ready to go, ready to be displayed. So I think that's a great way to work. And you can always mold it and cast it later if you decide you want that. Here I'm just trying to make sure that the surface is consistent, so I'm going over areas even though they don't have too many scratches that I can see. I'm just trying to, a lot of these areas were done by tool, and so I'm just going over them again to help the surface be consistent with the surface that I've done by hand, because sometimes the tool just leaves marks that are just a little bit different, or a surface that's just a little bit different, and you want your sculpture to be cohesive, to look like one piece, not different pieces squished together. So I'm just going through and softening up these. Areas. If I'm close to an edge, I'll put just that popsicle stick as a backing so that I don't mess up the edge that I've worked really hard to create. Somebody says, for somebody that's well acquainted with drawing with pencil and ink, would it be hard to get into sculpting? No, I've always liked drawing, and I found that after my first sculpting class in college that I was almost better at sculpting than I had been at drawing, even though I'd been drawing basically my whole life. So I think the skills that come from learning how to draw, learning how to see the figure, understanding, a lot of people will find that their brain just works more in a 3D manner, and I was that way, and so I still like drawing. In fact, I'd like to get back into doing more drawing, but my focus is just sculpture right now. But I'd say if you like drawing, if you like figurative stuff, then try sculpting and see how it goes. Like, you might be better at it just because your brain is more wired towards the working in 3D, which I felt like mine was. But that's not the case for everybody, and sculpting, just like drawing, is difficult. It's a skill that has to be built, so it's not like, well, for the vast majority of people, it takes a lot of work to become good, to become really good, so I wouldn't say expect it to be easy, but I would say definitely give it a try if you've enjoyed drawing and you think you might like it. And check out the sculpting course, the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals. That's the course I recommend for people that are just getting into sculpting, everything I wish I knew when I started. And it's on sale right now. Today's the last day of the summer sale. So proco.com/sculpture and use code SUMMERSALE for 20% off of any of the courses. But the sculpting courses are the ones that I recommend, because those are the ones that I get paid when you guys go and purchase. So it's I guess it's I'm a biased source, but I do think that they're worthwhile if you're interested in learning how to sculpt. And I think they're a good deal for how much information is there. Here I feel like there's some tool marks that are not coming out right here on the back. I'm pretty sure that those are tool marks. Over here, I'm not sure if it's tool marks or if it's just the stone, the pattern of the stone. Here, I think it might be the stone. But up here, I see some marks from the sander previously. Those are giving me a hard time to get out, so that's why I keep going over this area. But I would definitely say that drawing does translate the skills that you get from drawing. Sculpting is just drawing in another dimension. It's just still drawing. You're just adding one dimension to the drawing. It makes it more tricky, more challenging, but also more fun, I think. Smells pretty good. It's like well, I guess just earthy smell. Wet stone. Smells very, yeah, like right after it rains, kind of that smell. It's a nice natural smelling stone. And that is not coming. I think I might need to go down to a lower grit. So this is a lower grit. I think this one's like a 80 or something. So I'm gonna just come to get those tool marks out because I don't like them. And across. Let's see. that helped. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try this, or I'm gonna wet it down and then dry it off and see what it looks like. That'll help me to see how much more work it needs. And I can mark up any areas where that needs a lot of sanding. Okay. Just gonna try to take the stone dust off of it that comes from the slurry, and then I'll dry it off. And as it's drying, I'll be able to see the areas that still need work, which there probably will be quite a few areas, but it'll kind of give me an idea of where we're at. Then I'll probably take a lunch break and come back and keep going. This is the boring part, in my opinion, the sanding. I'm not a big fan of this part of the sculpting process, even though it's what really brings it all together. You can have a great design, but if you don't finish it, then it's not going to be a great sculpture. You want to create great sculptures, so got to do what it takes to do that. So let's see. Somebody says it's kind of hard to hear. Yeah, yeah, the mic is just the one on my laptop, so I apologize for that. I need to get a better sound setup for these types of live streams. Okay. Just gonna take this lumber crayon and mark up areas where I see that it's still, where I can still see scratches on the surface. So here there's scratches. These tips have scratches. Under here, still quite a bit. Oh yeah, all down here where I was working, because I scratched it up again, there's quite a bit. Scratches that need to still be worked out. So that's quite a bit. Some right there. So still quite a few areas that need some work. That's the pain, is think you're done. Then it starts to dry and you can see the scratches. Yeah, a little bit more. But it's closer, getting closer. Quite a few scratches there. Okay, I'm gonna take a break, eat some lunch, and I'll be back at it. If you're interested in sculpting, be sure to check out the links in the description for the figure sculpting course, portrait sculpting course. And thank you guys for watching, those that had questions. I'll see you guys again soon.